If you've been struggling with the GMAT for a very long time, doing a lot of courses and seeing no change in your score, it is probably about context. Allow me to explain. When you go through life, you read a lot of things, you talk to a lot of people, you watch a lot of movies, you interact in the day-to-day ideas that we all share. As you do that, you form mental models. And these mental models are very essential to doing really well in verbal and in quant. So when you're reading a text, how do you actually understand what the text is saying? It is because you have a mental model that you map the text to. And once this happens, you understand what the text wants and you understand the forces that are at play. Let me give you an example. If we're talking about profitability, you immediately know that profits equal revenue minus cost. And if you don't have that mental model, you won't be able to understand soon enough or within the requirements of the test what the forces that are at play are. So if the text tells you we expected the costs to rise, you wouldn't be able to make the conclusion, well, you know what, if the selling price doesn't increase, profitability is going to go down. Obviously, this is a very simple mental model. There are many more, perhaps more complex. There are trade-offs, cause effect, plan objective. And so there are things that if you haven't been exposed to enough throughout your life in the English language, you're going to struggle to understand what the text is saying soon enough. And that is where you're struggling. And so it's a question of expanding your context. So if you're in that boat, what do? Stop solving questions that are specific to the GMAT, especially official material. You will be wasting these resources. You will not be extracting all the value you can out of them, because the GMAT official material, it is not to learn. It is to actually frame whatever it is that you know within the context of the GMAT test. And so it has to be solved under town conditions always. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste. So stop solving those questions and use other resources that are going to help you expand your context. And then when you do that, you'll realize that you begin to answer questions more readily. You realize that you're more autonomous when you're solving questions. You'll realize that you'll be better able to solve quant questions even and translate a lot of text into a clear, concise equation. Because, for example, if they're talking about workers finishing a job, your framework and your mental model is work equals rate times time, and you have to be familiar with that model. And the more you apply that model to the real world, and the more you match what you see in the real world to that model when it applies, the better you will become at using it. If you would like to learn how to expand your context, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications so you don't miss videos like this one. Good luck with your preparation.